We have Elliot Millington, who is a PhD student at the University of Glasgow, and he'll be presenting his project titled Neurodivergent Participatory Action Research for Virtual Reality. So I'll let you present.
Thank you very much, Tammy. And I think this topic sort of follows on very nicely from what Gonzalo and I were just talking about, because it's a little bit more a method and methods sort of paper, looking at how we can do research with virtual reality for autistic people a little bit different. And so in sort of the brief sort of whiz through of the paper, which is itself a whiz through of a big area. So forgive me if a lot of things end up getting missed. But the key problem that we have generally in research for autistic people, and I think also in sort of the XR space, is that the priorities of what we're doing are not matching what the autistic community is asking for. So this is a wider problem. So for example, on the left-hand side here, this is based in the UK. There's a lot of work that's going into hard biology. In the US, sort of pretty much the same, which is, you know, almost notoriously really the thing that the autistic community hates the most. You know, anything to do with genetics and screenings and things like that. And VR research is no different. So in the special issue accompanying this paper, there was also another piece looking at all of the research that had been done, and a lot of the same trends are arising, especially with regards to social interventions, which are not highly rated and not well used. So there are lots. One of the solutions that we propose in the article for this is to use what we call participatory action research, participatory methods, sort of a bunch of terminology. But the gist is basically just getting autistic people in on the research process as meaningfully, as actively, and as early as possible. So one of the risks from things like this is that you can sort of drive towards tokenism, where, you know, just like people hear it's a good thing to have autistic people on board and then just include them, and then they have no meaningful relationship with the research or the researchers, and everyone comes out feeling badly from that process. That's not to say that, you know, it would be great if there was just a legion of autistic researchers just like ready to take a lead, and that's, I mean, they exist, don't get me wrong, but, you know, they're not everywhere. And there are different constraints that people have. So for example, I'm a PhD student. I don't really have, you know, big grants behind me that I can pay people like large salaries to join me. So here are a few different options I've described here, which also there's a video on the AVRA conference that we did where I talked through each of these in a little bit more detail, just about different options. For example, you know, having supervisory boards with autistic people on, or, you know, let's say bringing them on as researchers, or even just having in-depth consultations sort of at various points along with the research project. So why does this matter for virtual reality research specifically? So one of the things with VR is that it is incredibly complex, right? You know, there's a lot of new UX work that's being undertaken to try and understand what is going to be the best way to use VR. Like, I'm not going to say that PCs are perfect, but we've spent the last 40 years really trying to nail down those accessibility features. And that's, you know, that's the challenge, what we've got to try and replicate in VR. And then it's especially difficult when you're considering, you know, a lot of the things associated with autism, like, you know, my specialism is in the sensory side of things. Well, how does, for example, you know, multi-sensory integration work when you're sticking on a VR headset with, you know, not just, you know, one autistic person, but 10 autistic people, 100 autistic people, all of whom are so incredibly different. So that's, you know, a challenge, and it's not something that a neurotypical researcher is just going to be able to overcome by sitting down and thinking about it. You've got to have autistic people involved from the start. You know, you don't want to be going back and fixing things, certainly after release, that you could have, you know, wouldn't have been missed if there was someone on board from the beginning. So that's my brief overview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elliot.